Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. And here it is, the 13th and final episode of Binbogami Ga's first season. We don't know yet if there's going to be a second season, but I'm actually rather hopeful for that. But I'll talk some more about that later. Overall, I think this did provide a rather satisfying wrap up to the season, but there are still some flaws with this episode. And again, keep in mind, I have read pretty much all the manga that has been translated by the fans, which is significantly past this point. So I'm not going to spoil what's going on there for you, because if there is another season, I think we'll probably see some more of that. But anyway, I'll comment on that a little bit more later on. First of all, I have to say, I really liked just how really badass they made Kumagai, aka Teddy, to be out in this episode. In the manga, he does actually get his own little side story, and it's actually really impressive. He's quite the little badass, and I was really glad we got to see some of that here. Kumagai is, I guess you could say, a little bit of an ensemble dark horse here, but I really do think that I'm glad they took some time to really give him a chance to shine, because he's mostly been a character who's really been in the background. We haven't really gotten a very deep sense of him as a character. But here, with him being in direct confrontation with Ichigo, him going through all of this to try and protect Momiji, it really gives him, as I said, a real needed moment to shine, where a chance to take center stage and really become a real part of the story. Now, moving on, let's talk about Ichiko here. Now, it's interesting that we see all of this happening. Ichiko's natural instinct is to sort of, in a way, revert back to her old self and just try and find and be selfish. I like nice Momiji because she's not always trying to steal my fortune and screw with my life. And given the amount of screwing with her life that Momiji has done, it's kind of understandable that Ichiko would feel this way. But here's the thing: is that, as we see, it's really obviously an act on Ichiko's part. She simply cannot bring herself to admit that she likes having Momiji in her life in her original form. Because, well, as again, original flavor Momiji is kind of a real pain in Ichiko's ass. And while nice Momiji is certainly good to have around, she doesn't really have the chops to be that sort of trickster mentor, that Obi-Wan that Ichiko needs. Nice Momiji is really too nice to give Ichiko the kick in the ass she needs in order to grow up and stop being so selfish. Original flavor Momiji, she had attitude to spare and was able to compete with Ichiko on a very level playing field. Now, granted, it's not that nice Momiji doesn't have things to teach Ichiko. The way she acts really does bring Ichiko's feelings about Momiji to the surface. But that said, it is not that version of Momiji that Ichiko really needs in her life. As much as it might drive her crazy, she needs original flavor Momiji. And yeah, and that's the whole thing about it. Ichiko simply cannot bring herself to admit that she wants Momiji back the way that she was. And this brings me to my biggest problem with this episode. And frankly, it wasn't, and this was a similar problem in the manga as well. It's that the explanation of just why Momiji has to be changed back to the way she originally was is really rather murky. And it basically boils down to Kumagai saying that if Momiji doesn't get dirty by sundown, then the goddess Momiji will die. Now, this doesn't mean that Momiji herself, at least if I'm understanding what he's been saying correctly, will cease to exist. She won't just, and no more Momiji. She will simply stay as a normal human. Now, that does mean that, original flavor pain in the ass to Ichiko Momiji would be gone forever, but normal human girl, nice Momiji Binbota would still be around. Now, again, correct me if I'm wrong out there, folks, but that is the way I do understand the situation they're presented with us. And if that's the case, then Ichiko has far less reason to go out and bring original flavor Momiji back. Now, again, I've said I think on some level she knows that that is the version of Momiji who is going to have the most positive influence on her life. But nice Momiji is the one that's going to have the minimal amount of complications in her life. So Ichiko is stuck with that struggle between what she wants and what she actually needs. And that's a very, very important distinction to make. One of the great struggles of life is choosing the things that we want, between the things that we want and the things that we need, because they're not always the same thing. To put it give an example, we may want to date someone who, for whatever reason, we find very attractive. Maybe they're really exciting, yada yada yada. But maybe this person, well, we might have fun with them. Maybe we find them very attractive. Maybe they're an extremely disruptive element to our lives. And, a little disruption to your life can be a good thing sometimes, but I'll put it this way. You ever date somebody who is bad for you, but you can't resist them? Well, in a way, that's what we're looking at here. Ichiko likes having nice Momiji around. Nice Momiji is not a complication. Nice Momiji is, she's nice. She doesn't really make Ichiko's life a hassle. But she cannot provide that kick in the pants that Ichiko needs to really grow up. And as I said, on some level, Ichiko realizes this. And that's why she does what she does. That's why she turns Momiji back into her original flavor. I enjoy saying that way too much. Probably just because I remember what a complete and utter boondoggle New Coke turned out to be. Some days I feel very old. But anyway, it does. And when Ichiko does change Momiji back, of course, the first thing they do is they immediately get into a big fight. Because again, one of the things that nice Momiji can't do is really compete with Ichiko on that level playing field. And as you can tell by the way they're interacting, that's something that Ichiko seems to actually, on some level, even enjoy, even if she can't admit it to herself. So this is, if you're really willing to pay attention and think about what's happening, a very rich episode for Ichiko's character. It really does bring her development this season to a very satisfying conclusion. And of course, one of the big parts of this stuff, one of the things that makes this series so enjoyable is just simply seeing Ichiko and Momiji butt heads with each other. And as much as they might complain and argue with each other, it's also very obvious that they're also friends, even though, again, if neither one of them will really admit to each other. And just look at what happens. Look at what the big thing here is Momiji says that she really wanted, nice Momiji I guess I should say, that she really wanted just once to have Ichiko call her by her name. Now if you're paying attention to the subtitles or the Japanese or whatever, every time Ichiko addresses Momiji, she always refers to her simply as, Binbogami, or at least once or twice in the subtitles as beggar bitch, which I actually really love that probably more than I should, but whatever. But here at the very end of it all, we finally get to see Ichiko refer to Momiji with her given name. Now keep in mind, referring to somebody with their given name, no honorifics or anything like that, is a very strong display of intimacy in Japanese culture. In most circumstances, like for example, with Momo, well, Ichiko always just calls him Momo. I don't think it's I don't think she's even been told what his last name is. Or now we know that it's Inugami, but I don't think Ichiko was around when that was said. And if she was, I don't think she even really registers that with Momo. He's Momo. That's it. She's not terribly close to Momo, although he is sort of part of her extended crazy little family that she has going on. Bobby, of course, she always refers to as Bobby, but that's the only name he's ever given her, even though he does have one if you read enough of the manga. But Bobby's a foreigner, so the rules don't apply to him the same way they would to like Keita. She usually refers to him by his family name. And and going back to Bobby for a moment, when I lived in Japan, people just pretty much automatically called me by my given name. Honestly, one of the things that always sort of bothered me is that people tended to actually forget what my family name was. That they were just so used to calling me by my given name. Now, to be completely fair, I always said, like, look, I don't care if you want to call me by my given name. I'd actually prefer it. But that said, I still find it kind of annoying that people would forget half of my name. People who had known me for months, sometimes even years. But, that's another story. So, anyway, moving on. This is something I really, really do hope, along with the delightful amounts of profanity in this series. I do hope that they can't keep the Lord of the Rings reference that they threw in this episode with Ichiko going, "You shall not pass." I thought that was hilarious. Another thing I have to give a lot of props to was the fight between Momo and Ranmaru bouncing around on the cars on the highway. That was actually a really good action sequence, very well done, very reminiscent of stuff I've seen in other action movies. In fact, I'm pretty sure. Didn't Jackie Chan have like a fight like this in one of his movies? Well, anyway, I know there's been like fights bouncing around from cars in martial arts movies before. But yeah, and honestly, just seeing Ranmaru and Momo fight, given his masochistic tendencies, that's some pretty funny stuff, and it was equally as funny in the manga. Although here we definitely do get to see the fight played out in, I think, a better fashion. And well, I don't think we could really talk about this series without mentioning just the absolutely at times copious amounts of lezyay between Ichiko and Momiji. Those two as a couple is apparently quite popular with the fan artists in Japan, as well as the fans over here with Western fans, I should say. And to throw one tiny little spoiler from the manga out at you, there's actually a point in the series where Nadeshiko is actually commenting on this, and she even says, "Enough of, knock it off. Enough of the readers think that this is a Yuri manga already." So, with that being the case, I think I'm fairly comfortable with saying that this is probably somewhat intentional on the part of Binbogami Ga's creator. Again, I freely admit that I'm speculating there. He might have just been sort of commenting on some unexpected fan reaction to the series, but, well, you make up your own mind as to that. Let's see here. Now, one thing that I would like to comment on before I wrap this all up is if you're paying attention to Nadeshiko at the very end, she does mention an OVA. I believe the title is going to be Binbogami Ga Darkness, or at least that's going to be the translation. So I actually went by the official Binbogami Ga Japanese website, And there is indeed a section set aside for talking about a movie, a Binbogami Ga movie. It even has the word movie written in English, which is quite helpful. Sadly, these videos are not viewable to anyone outside of Japan, which includes me. Now, I know there's all kinds of little fancy tricks that you can do to your computer to kind of get around stuff like that. I even have one or two of them on my computer. But I'm not the most technically savvy person around. I think if you've watched enough of my videos, you've probably seen what passes for editing around here. But anyway, I was not able to view any of those videos, but it does look like this is going to happen. When it gets out there, I will definitely bring you a review of it. And if you were paying attention during those closing credits, you would get to see quite a few characters that you've never seen before. Some of those folks are, of course, well, actually, all of them are, of course, characters that are introduced later in the manga. I'm not familiar with all of them. Obviously, those people come from later on in the manga than I've read. I believe the series is up to at least 55 chapters, and I've only read to about 32. 32, 33, somewhere in that neighborhood is all that's currently been translated into English at the moment. Although I will say, if you notice the girl with the glasses and the green outfit, that's Tanpopo. She's someone that you definitely want to keep an eye on as a character. Hopefully, we'll be seeing her and some of those other characters like Kurikiri Hime in next season. I'm really pulling for another one. Binbogami Ga is a great series. There definitely needs to be more of it. And yeah, folks, I'm really glad that I took the time to review this series. It hasn't exactly been doing gangbusters in the views that I've been getting, but you know what? I started doing this because this show really reignited my desire to watch anime. And just the fact that I could sit down and talk about an anime show that I really enjoyed, that got me excited, that I looked forward to every week, that makes it all. That really more than any number of ratings that I could get on these videos makes it all worthwhile. It really is fun to be really into a anime show again. But anyway, I will, of course, be reviewing more anime on this channel. If you follow me on Twitter, you will have seen which series I'll be doing next. If not, I will be explaining that in a channel update, which I'll be doing pretty soon. But anyway, that's all for another time. Overall, folks, Binbogami Ga has been a great series. I loved watching it. I hope you did as well. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter to get the absolute earliest news about what's going to be going on around here at Who's Your Jedi on Twitter. And until next time, take care and have a good one.